Hi everyone, welcome to this edition of Addington News, brought to you out of the Brecon-winning Owners Bar. Great place to come, quite clearly. You probably won a race if you do get in here, or you've sponsored a race here at Addington Raceway. Last week we had John Dunn on. Bryce's medal he came up with as his best bet and delivered, so a great result there. Shortly we'll hear from Tim Williams about his chances. Of course it is Garrard's National Handicap Week this week, the first step in the road to the IRT New Zealand Cup, the second Tuesday in November this year, a little bit later than normal on the 14th of November. Tickets go on sale, by the way, the 31st of August. What about this week's race meeting? Well, if you want to have an investment, stick around. Here's Tim Williams on the other side. I'll give you the best bets. Tim, great time of year, the first step towards the IRT New Zealand Cup. I'm sure there's a bit of I know it's still winter, but a spring in the step of everyone around the barn.
Yeah, definitely, Greg. Obviously, the days are starting to get longer and the sun's starting to come out. So, as like you say too, the better horses are starting to creep out again now too, which is always exciting. And like you say, starting to count down towards the big day.
All right. The Telfer team have a couple of runners in the Garrard's National Handicap. Your drive, Artie's Express. I know she got beaten first up, but the stable must have been absolutely wrapped with her.
Yeah, look, just a massive shout out to all the people that were probably involved. Obviously, the Rangura Vet Clinic team and, the Courtco team, where she spent a lot of time at the Water Walker just to get her back to the races. Firstly, was a massive thing. And obviously to be away from racing so long and just to have her back on the track was pretty exciting. So, look, she went great. Obviously, she got beat, but being away for a long time, it was just important to get her to the track and get her run under her belt. And couldn't have been more pleased with how she handled herself.
How she comes through it, and what's your expectations with her this week?
She's come through it well, Greg. Obviously, had a really good blow. Obviously, I wasn't there, but reports from Mandy, she said she pulled up well, but did have a really good blow. So, natural fitness and the work since has been really good. She's definitely tightened up a wee bit, but she'll have to. It's obviously a different class of horse she meets this week, and other than racing her age group at 3, she probably hasn't dipped her toe against some of these ones. There's some, the stablemate, for example, which she's been good enough to win a Group 1. So it won't be easy this week, but good to just have her back at the races again and get another run under her belt and see how she's going to measure up against these sort of horses.
Yep, well, she's off 20, and you mentioned All-American Lover. She resumes off 30, but she was excellent at the trials here at Addington last week.
Yeah, she's just lovely mare. Obviously, nothing seems to phase her. She doesn't go too many. She goes more good ones than she does bad ones. So, excited to have her back too. She's obviously on a tough mark this time, but she's got great manners and can follow terrific speed too. So, you know what you're going to get with her. She's going to turn up and give you her best every time. And even off the mark, if she gets the right run, she's she'll run a genuine race.
And she's a really good stayer. I know you guys have always been keen to get her over the longer distance, as she did when she was in that Country Cups final, albeit she got beat a wee while ago now, 15, 16 months ago. But how do you sort of line them up this week? Obviously, you'll be hoping Artie Express wins the race, but is there much between them?
Look, off their track work this morning, Greg, I'd say not. The one thing in All-American Lover's favour, she has dipped the toe against those ones last season, and I think the Kaikoura run, I know, like you say, a great man put her in that race, but she wasn't a mile away and running fourth to some smart types. So Artie's Express hasn't been tested against these ones yet. So you'd argue she is the new kid on the block, but All-American Love is definitely she's up them and not far away from them. I think she proved that towards the end of the season when she was able to pick up the Group 1.
Another of the stable runners, a little bit of a star, I suppose, is Ultimeteor takes his place in race number 8. Are you happy where he's at?
Yeah, he's good. Greg's obviously only had the one trial, but he's been down here for a wee while now, and I think that trip to Aussie's probably stood him in good stead. It's potentially hardened him up a wee bit. So, on paper, it looks a nice race for him to kick off a campaign this time in, and the draw may look tricky, but like you say, he's a high-speed horse, so I don't think it's going to be too big a problem where he happens to settle. He's got enough speed to dig himself out of a hole.
Is he ready to win first up, do you think?
I think he can with the right sort of run, Greg. You couldn't say he couldn't win, but obviously being first up for a wee while, you're obviously going to be a little bit vulnerable against some of them. But, if he has a touch of luck and others have bad luck, he's definitely got enough class to take him all the way.
Just a quick look at your other drives. Monarch Prince is fresh up for Coaster Hare. Melody Banner in race 4 was second on debut and clearly has a motor. And Mickey Bennett goes around in the final race on Friday night. How do you sort of line them up?
Yeah, I think all three of them good enough chances, Greg. Pleased with Coaster's trotter last week at the trials. Obviously, another one coming out of age group racing, and nice race to kick off in this week. And back to the mobile. I think he's a good each way chance. Done a good job last time. And Melody Banner, she might have looked not real impressive last week at the trials, but put a line through that. She copped a couple of checks. Her work since has been nice. Obviously, Nathan and Mark's one looks the one to beat on paper from the ring craft that's had earlier in the season, but she'll go a good race. And I think Mickey Bennett, he could be one to follow. He's first up too, but he's really strengthened up from the spell this time in, and we're expecting him to do a good job through the spring.
All right. Thanks, mate, for joining us on Addington News. We'll see you Friday night.
No worries. Thanks, Greg.
So big thanks to Tim Williams. Looked a pretty nice day out there at Dancing on Moonlight, and of course it won't be too long till they're at their new setup at the late Jack Smolensky's property there in Rolleston. So Tim gave quite a nice push around a number of the Telfers team. If you want to play a multi this week, I reckon Major Hot Race 4 number 7, good enough to go around in stakes company, should be taking care of business here. Natalie Rasmussen doing the driving for Mark and Nathan Purden. 2 Tangata was very unlucky last week. Charged home, race 7 number 5. Mystic Max will be hard to beat, so it makes for a logical Quinella there. And Ultra Meteor, who Tim gave a nice push for, if he's going to go around in the Derby later in the year, which incidentally also will be sponsored by Garrard's, then he should be taking care of business even in a fresh state. Big thank you to all our supporters for the last 8 Sundays that we've had here, in particular the trainers that have got behind those. They all had a great time in Spectators, and basically all of them have said, yes, we want to be back in once again. Last week, it was the KB Electrics team to finish things off with Neil Michelle, and they had success on the track and race number 3 to boot. So, yeah, all in all, pretty successful, but now it's the turn of the country clubs around Canterbury to have those Sunday meetings starting this week with Ashburton. All the very best Friday night to all of the connections that have runners in at Addington Raceway. I'll see you trackside the first 5:20 on the 9 race program.